Hi everyone, welcome to another lab where we will be focusing on a sawtooth waveform, particularly how to create a sawtooth waveform. So in the last lab you saw that we have used a sawtooth waveform as a carrier waveform, and then we compared against with a reference value to generate PWM waveform. So in this lab we will focus on how to create this sawtooth waveform, and in particularly this is known as the trailing edge sawtooth, as you can see here in the scope. So we will look at a very basic experiment in this lab again, and if you want to look at this particular area, it's basically we will be focusing in the kit. This is a green board, but in principle this is a blue board in the final version. So I'm still using a demo board here. So in this particular case, you can see in this region here is where we have all the components which is generating the sawtooth. We will go into this circuit a little bit more. It has a op amp. This particular one is an op amp, and then there is a MOSFET here which we are going to use for one particular reason, which you will be seeing, and then there are a bunch of resistors and caps. This particular potentiometer here is what changes the frequency of the sawtooth waveform. So if I move this around, I should be able to go to frequency ranges across from 6 kilohertz to all the way to around 500 kilohertz. So let's try to understand this lab a little bit before we go and start doing the experiment. Of course, in an ideal world, sawtooth waveform is fantastic. Sawtooth waveform starts from 0, goes to its maximum value, then sharply falls to 0 again, and then it rises, right? In an ideal sense, there is an instantaneous jump from the max value to the mean value at the end of the cycle. But obviously, when we are trying to create this in the hardware, there is a finite time which takes for this transition to happen, and then we can change the slope and we can change the integration, right? So let's try to understand how to create a sawtooth waveform using op amps. Again, we are not dealing with power in this lab. It's all about signal processing, and particularly how to create a sawtooth waveform. So if you go through this lab particularly, a very simple way to create a sawtooth, if you think about it, is if you can integrate a constant through an op amp. So we know already an op amp as an integrator, probably have seen in some other classes prior to this, and what we are going to do is use the op amp as an integrator, and we integrate a constant voltage, and that's it, right? So if I integrate a constant voltage, it's a ramp, so it goes on, but obviously a sawtooth is a portion of a ramp, so you have to have a transition once the ramp reaches some particular value. So what we will do is we will keep monitoring where the ramp is, and as soon as it reaches a threshold, we will turn on a switch to discharge the capacitor for this op amp integrator. But something to think about here is that if you go by this basic formulation, there is a negative sign, obviously, right, in this op amp integrator if you use op amp integrator like as shown in this diagram. So this is a very standard basic op amp integrator. So all you have to do is give a constant voltage at Vin, and Vout will have a ramp, and based on where the ramp is, we have to figure out again put a comparator and figure out at the certain threshold we will discharge this cap, and as the cap discharges, basically we have killed that voltage across that cap. So the cap basically holds that voltage of that ramp. Now, as you saw in this particular case, there is a negative sign in front of this integration, right? So what it means is that you have to apply a negative voltage, and as you apply a negative voltage, you need to apply a bipolar supply to this op amp. Now yes, you can do all these things, but one of the objective of this kit is to make it low cost, keep parts as low as possible, and without adding problems with different parts and so on. So one of the focus of this particular blue board has been that we operate within a 0 to 5 volt range. So we don't have a bipolar supply on the blue board to get to this value where we have a negative voltage and apply a bipolar voltage onto the op amp, and so that it can go full swing, okay? So we had to be a little bit more creative in terms of recreate this integration such that we don't go into this range of or requiring bipolar supply. So what we did instead was we came up with this circuit. Again, this is a very standard circuit. If you really know op amps, this is very straightforward, but it's a very interesting circuit. I would strongly encourage you to solve this circuit on your own and figure out what exactly are we doing in this particular case such that we can get away with a unipolar supply onto the op amp without any problem and still get through the integration. Okay, so if you look at this op amp, which is TSV7722, which we picked, and it has few things which are important in this case. One is rail to rail, so the output is rail to rail. It has a good gain bandwidth product of 22 megahertz as well as a good slew rate. So all these things are helpful because you might be, as you might appreciate, that the ramp has to go very fast, and depending on the slew rate, we have to be careful about of how do we select these parts. So this is a decent part, and one of the another attractive feature. It's $1. It just costs $1. So relatively speaking, there are other op amps which has much higher bandwidth, much higher capabilities, but of course you have to pay for those. So long story short, what you can see here, what we have done is we have given a constant voltage on the non-inverting terminal. Okay, now that sets the voltage. Okay, ideal op amp, if I assume that to be ideal op amp, again the frequencies we are talking about is way lower than its gain bandwidth product. So here you can see that my non-inverting terminal will also hold the voltage. Now I can see that there is a cap, and this, if I work out the math, you can easily see that depending on how this resistance is, R fric plus R16, and this capacitor Cin, which is 470 picofarad, they determine what is the ramp rate. Okay, and it will be a positive ramp rate. It's very interesting. Now what do? We go through a very small low pass filter so that we don't have much noise picked up here. After that, we go through a comparator which has some threshold around it, and depending on what threshold it crosses, we set this switch on and the capacitor discharges. Now mind it, this output here is going to go from this minimum point here and to some value. Okay, so we are going to input depending on what the threshold is. This will determine the range of the signal at this output terminal of 1. But we want the RAM by design choice to be within 0 to 4. Okay, we can make it 0 to 5 as well, but for safety reasons and for safety margins, we kept it 0 to 4. Then what do? We have to subtract whatever is here, right, that baseline value. So then what we did is we took the other part of the op amp and we configured it as a subtractor. So basically all it does is it subtracts this DC offset from here, and here in this particular sawtooth output, we should see a ramp which goes from 0 to 4. Okay, of course there are non-idealities and it will not be perfect in all cases, but that's how we have done this. Now this has become very interesting because you will not do a traditional negative voltage integration. So you have to think a little bit of how to set things up, and you have to really understand how op amps operate and do the math, and you should be able to figure out. Okay, so that's how the circuit has been implemented. So now in this particular lab, what you will be doing is look at different frequencies, and if you remember from the last lab, in particularly creating PWMs, what we are most interested is the linearity of that encoding process. I have a reference signal and we are encoding that reference signal into the pulse width. How linear is this process? Can I always come up with one linear function from my analog voltage, the reference voltage, to my pulse width? So it is very important, and that's why what we will be looking at in this particular lab is, as I change my sawtooth frequency, how linear is this process, and what are we going to measure? We are going to look at the minimum ramp value, where it starts from. Does it start from 0 or does it have a threshold? Does it hit 4 volt or does it go above 4 volt or lower 4 volt? Because at some frequencies, non-idealities are going to creep up. So basically it is telling us the way we are generating the ramp, the way we are using these components on this board, what's the safe frequency range where we can say a ramp is a ramp. And that's why you will see there is another measurement you will be doing, which is the transition time. Okay, this one will be computed automatically depending on what's your frequency or the time period. So the transition time, as I said, the ramp should have been decreased rapidly from the max value to 0 or the mean value. is it happening, and is it happening across the entire frequency spectrum. So that's what we will be measuring. So let's go back and let's take a look at it. So here what I have set it up as, and again for configuration standpoint, very simple lab, nothing to configure much. We are not going to use the red board, purple board, or any of the other accessories. All we have to do is plug in the USB and we should be good to go to see what happens in this particular section. So I'm probing the sawtooth waveform here, and as I change my RFREC1, basically I can change the frequency and I can keep track of what's the minimum value and what's the maximum value of this ramp. And the other thing we are interested in is this transition time. So here you can see this transition time is close to around 200 to 300 nanosecond. So if we are operating at 6 kilohertz, 300 nanosecond is minuscule, doesn't matter, it's like a perfect ideal ramp. But as I pull up frequency, if I go to 100 kilohertz, now we are talking about 10 microsecond. Still 300 nanosecond is minuscule. I go to 500 kilohertz, right? So now I'm at 2 microsecond. So now we are gradually getting to a point where this transition might become more and more critical, and the ramp may not look like any more ramp. And what will that happen? What will that change? All the encoding process, what we have seen from that reference signal to this one, will start deviating, and the non-linearities will creep in that encoding process, what we don't want. Okay, so let's keep going, and we are going to measure this. As you can see, you see here particularly now the ramp is a significant portion of my sawtooth, right? So if I go here, you can see clearly that it's no more a ideal ramp, and also there are kinks because of the non-idealities of the MOS of the op-amp coming into play. So here you can see that the minimum has changed drastically. It's no more 0. It's no more 0. As you can see here, the maximum probably has changed as well. It has gone to 4.36. So this is exactly what you will be measuring and trying to figure out that, okay, what's the frequency range where this circuit performs such that it is close to an ideal circuit. Okay, and as we go away and from these particular cases, we will see they occupying a much more important non-idealities and influencing our encoding process. Okay, so overall very simple lab in some sense. Okay, not much to explore and configure things, but basically what we are asking you in this particular lab is to focus on this ramp generation. And as you go through the lab, can we go to 800 kilohertz? Can we go past 500 kilohertz? What are the non-idealities we see in this particular circuit? And maybe you can come up with your own ramp generation circuit which can go to megahertz, maybe higher than 1 megahertz, greater than 1 megahertz. It can be going to 10 megahertz. So think about what would you change if I have to create a ramp at beyond past 1 megahertz, because some converters do operate at switching frequencies beyond 1 megahertz. Okay, good luck with this experiment, and I will see you in another lab.